Hey guys, Dominic, and welcome to the Genuine Reels Movie Podcast, or if you're watching this on YouTube, welcome to the Genuine Reels YouTube page, where we talk about all things movies, TV, and we also do some comedy sketches. But today, we are delving into Twin Peaks: The Return, Episode 8, as I've been doing lately, just recapping the episodes, going through, giving my shitty theories, and Episode 7 I did not get a chance to do, because I had some other things going on, but I will recap the important things. Obviously, Agent Cooper attacked by the bald dwarf, and he went full Jason Bourne on him, pretty much kicked his ass, and then you had a little surprise appearance from the Evolution of the Arm, telling him, I believe, to rip his arm off. And at the end of that episode, Dark Cooper escapes with assistance from the Warden. So now, Episode 8. We open with Dark Cooper leaving the prison with his pal Ray. Not really his pal anymore, but we see them leaving in the car. And as Ray and Cooper are talking, this is the first time I think that we hear somebody refer to Dark Cooper as Cooper when Ray calls him Mr. Cooper. And this was pretty funny to hear because it was something I thought maybe he would be going under the Bob alias. Who knows? But now, they bring up Daria, who I believe was the girl, I'm pretty sure, that Cooper killed in the motel in episode 1 or 2 when we first started seeing his creepy long-haired ass. Now, Ray pulls over the car to take a leak, and Dark Cooper takes the gun, which he requested, out of the glove compartment and tries to sneak up on Ray. Now, the gun is not loaded, and Cooper is surprised when he is shot down. Now, we see a bunch, after Cooper is shot down, we see a bunch of these burnt, dark men. And we saw one of these men in an earlier episode, I think it was the first or second episode, in the prison cell. And then we saw another one in another episode where he was kind of just lingering in the background. There might have been another appearance by these characters, but they're very creepy and really just great, like easy effects, but creepy. And we see a bunch of these people come out and they start to sort of like dance over Dark Cooper's body, which was funny, creepy, and they're kind of like faintly seen. They're not quite visible, but Ray does see them, and he looks very terrified. The effect here is kind of like a slow motion effect. And now we see that they start smearing the blood on Dark Cooper's face and smearing it from his wound, and we have this ominous music playing, and then suddenly Bob's face and essence come out of Dark Cooper's stomach, almost like he's giving birth, and Ray makes a phone call. He leaves, and he makes a phone call telling someone he saw something in Cooper that may be the key to what this is all about. So, obviously getting more of this bits and pieces. Now, for those who watched the episode, you know that this is pretty much all that we got on the cohesive storyline in this episode, because then we go to the Roadhouse. We have the Nine Inch Nails, Trent Reznor and the Nine Inch Nails being announced, and they play a song, and then we go back to the desert, and Dark Cooper awakes. He sits up a la The Undertaker from WWE, and we jump back. Surprisingly, we do a giant flashback to July 16th, I believe the date was, 1945 in New Mexico. Now, we see a kind of bomb testing, which is most likely the A-bomb, and this is dropped. And this, with the bomb dropping, we go full David Lynch into this episode. I mean, if you're listening to this, I don't know why the hell you're listening to this if you didn't see this episode, but this episode just goes way back to just the early David Lynch, Eraserhead. It just feels like an experimental kind of like horror movie. It feels very Eraserhead, and it starts by kind of going in black and white, staying in black and white, and going with these kind of explosions and fire, and we feel like we're kind of in space and we're floating, and very loud noises, very unsettling. And this goes on, it had to probably go on for about 7-8 minutes or so. And then we come to an old gas station, also in the 40s, and there's smoke coming out, and there's sort of a clippy, choppy effect to it. And then the people walking outside, they resemble the burnt people. I believe they are the burnt people, if not prior to them being burnt. Then suddenly there's a gray body in the black space floating through the air. And this was very, very Twilight Zone. And all of a sudden it starts kind of like spitting out shapes of it out of its mouth. And then we see Bob's face in a kind of grimace, and then a fiery explosion, and we see this orange screen and the red. It almost looks like the light speed from Star Wars. And then we come to an ocean finally. Now this is all dragged out for a rather long time, and we come to this ocean and we see a mountain, and then on top of this mountain we see a futuristic building that is sitting there and a small black window. Now we zoom into the blackness and we see a woman, very 40s, sitting on a couch, music playing in an old-fashioned room. This is all in black and white. And I took note here where I said, like, this is a half hour in. This is a half hour into this episode, so, I'm running through it pretty quick, but it did last a while, and it was, obviously, this episode, this entire episode feels like, just like I said, an experimental kind of short film. It's very, very ambitious for something to see on TV. I mean, he is going full Lynch. Frost and Lynch are back at it again, and, kudos to Showtime for like agreeing to show this episode, not being like, hey, we shouldn't do an episode like this, because it is its own thing. I mean, it feels separate from any of the other episodes we've seen, and it's very, very unique. Now we see this woman sitting, and then we see the giant, and he's in the room, and we have like an alarm start sounding, and there's also this black-belled object, rather large. And the giant presses a button to shut the sound off. Now the giant goes up some steps, and he's suddenly in a theater, and he's watching pretty much the events we just saw unfold on screen. All the spacey, fiery explosion effects, and then he pauses it when we get to the moment of Bob's face, and this was very like. Oh man, I felt like out of my element right here. I felt like I was on some kind of drugs, which is definitely the point. And he pauses this, and then the other woman, she comes in. We see some gold dust coming out of the giant's head as the woman looks on. And also, I missed a part where the giant floats up in a sort of laying down position to the ceiling, and that's when the gold starts coming out of his head, some flaky dust. Now it forms into a gold ball, and it goes to the woman. She stares into it and sees Laura Palmer's face. Now, from what I'm seeing other people saying, this is basically like the creation of Bob, perhaps being created by the A-bomb, and I don't know what the deeper meaning here is with Laura Palmer's has to do with it. Now, she lets the ball float up, and it goes into a gold tube above her. And then it goes into the screen and toward Earth. Now, the clock hits 1956 now in the New Mexico desert. And we see an egg of some kind hatch, and it looks almost like a frog with wings comes out of this thing. And now a dark man floats into the desert. Other dark men appear as well. And one of the dark men, he gets in front of a car with a couple, and he holds a cigarette and he says, "Got a light?" And this is actually the title of the episode, and he says it over and over again, and more burnt dark men appear. So now the old couple peels off, and then we see a young couple walking and talking, and a small kiss occurs between the young man and the woman. And then the young boy begins walking back home alone, and then suddenly we see the main old burnt man, the one that went up to the car, walking toward a radio station, KPJK, if I wrote that down right, radio. We have old 50s music playing and a lone DJ. We also see some townspeople, a waitress in a diner, a mechanic, and the young girl that was recently brought home by the boy. Now the dark man walks into the radio station, asking the secretary, "Got a light?" and then pops her head. Basically, because he squeezes it, she starts to scream, and it's pretty disturbing stuff. Yet again, just just brought me right back to movies, like Eraserhead. Very, very Lynch this episode, and he just goes full throttle in this. He's going back. I feel like he's going back to his roots, and he's not only doing, what I've realized overall about Twin Peaks: The Return is that he's not just going back to Twin Peaks. He's revisiting a lot of his other work, whether it's, subtle little things here and there. It just feels like that. Now, after popping off that one's head, he goes to the DJ's booth and he takes the needle off the record and he grabs the DJ, holds him there for a while, and he says on the radio, now if I got this right, he says, "This is the water, this is the well, drink full and its end, the horse is the white of the eyes and dark within." And then he repeats this over and over again. I might have butchered that. I'm just going on one take of watching it. And then people start dropping dead, seemingly, listening to the radio, falling over. The mechanic, I believe you see the waitress from the diner as well. And then the thing from the egg, the frog with wings, is crawling, and it flies up through the young girl's window, who is listening to the radio, crawls into her mouth, and then the burnt man finally crushes the DJ's head and leaves blood everywhere before walking into the darkness. And that is the end of this experimental episode. So what did I think overall of this episode? As I was watching it, I will be honest, I'm reaching a point with Twin Peaks: The Return where I'm very impatient. I am very impatient. I know this takes a lot of build up, and Lynch is taking us on this journey, Lynch and Frost. But watching this episode, I was feeling, especially in the long, drawn out, kind of noisy segments of space and fire and explosions, I was feeling a little like, I was getting a little frustrated. As the episode went on, I have to say that I overall really enjoyed the episode. I mean, like I said before, it feels like a short experimental film in the vein of Lynch's earlier works. It feels like a little mini horror film, and it's something so different that I've seen in a long time, and something so different specifically for television, specifically for Showtime. You wouldn't see anything like this anywhere else, but, being brought to you by Lynch and Frost and in Twin Peaks. Now, we are continuing the streak in this revival that it is very, very, very different from the original Twin Peaks. Of course, the original Twin Peaks had its weirdness, had its kookiness, but I think it was pretty straightforward for the most part. It had those weird things that you were kind of like questioning, but it was a straightforward story. This is going all over the place, and now all over time and space we are seeing. So is this Bob's backstory? Is this the creation of the demon Bob and how he came to be related to atom bomb testing? I think that's what it is. They are apparently, Showtime, this is going to be the last episode before a 2-week gap, probably because of 4th of July and whatever. So then they're going to come back with the last 10 episodes. So what's going to happen in these last 10 episodes? Are we going to get back? Are we going to get Cooper back? Regular Cooper? Is he going to realize who he is? Is he going to head back to Twin Peaks? Everybody's hoping for it. Overall, like I said, like this episode, thought it was just something so unseen in such a long time, and I really enjoyed it overall. Definitely curious to what it is going to add to the final story, if we're going to get some explanations on some of the things that occurred in this episode. And these dark, burnt men, what do they mean? Are they, the essence of Bob? They're obviously related to Bob in some way. We shall see, but let me know, guys, what you thought of Twin Peaks Episode 8. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Do you like where this series is heading? Let me know in the comments below. Check out the other videos, guys. I also do comedy sketches. I do movie reviews. Check out the podcast if you're not listening to the podcast, because I do some fun stuff. Me and my brother, or me and my girlfriend, we talk about funny, crazy funny movies, whether it's Kindergarten Cop, Roadhouse, or Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Movies that aren't supposed to be funny, but they are. So check that out and let me know what you think. And thanks for watching, guys.